Hey everyone, welcome again to another episode of WP Product Talk. My name is Matt Cromwell, and I am one of the co-founders of GiveWP, and have been building products in WordPress for 8-9 years or so. I need to just figure out the number and stop guessing. I feel like every time that comes up, I have to scratch my head. It's like asking me how old my kids are. And I like to be able to talk about products and how to grow them and how to do better with them in WordPress specifically. And another person who likes to do that is Katie Keith. Katie, you want to tell the world about yourself?
Yep, so I'm Katie, CEO and co-founder at Barn2 Plugins. We've been selling plugins since 2016. You see, Matt, I don't have to do maths if you just say the year. And I like working out new ways to sell the plugins and build the business, and also help other people with their own WordPress product businesses as well.
Exactly. And this is WP Product Talk, where we talk about all those things, and we bring somebody smart and intelligent who uses years also to talk about the subject. And today we have the benefit of having Andrew Palmer with us. Andrew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. I'm Andrew Palmer. I'm the co-founder of Bertha.ai, but I used to run elegantmarketplace.com, which I sold to InMotion. So sold a lot of plugins, helped a lot of vendors sell their plugins as well, including WP Feedback, which is now Atarim.io. And I'm joined by little Bertha. So there you go. Say hello.
That's excellent. Nice. Oh my goodness. That's some good swag right there. There's some child in the world that has that and is choking on it right now, probably.
It's unique. It's the first, it's the only one. She's the only one.
Are you going to do more?
No.
Okay. That's invaluable.
I think if you do sponsor something, though, then you should do. That is a good idea.
Yeah. She's great. She's handmade, and she looks great, doesn't she?
That's amazing. That's fun. So if you haven't figured it out yet, the subject today is artificial intelligence, specifically using AI to grow your WordPress product business. And it's a subject that, of course, is trending and interesting because of ChatGPT and things like that. I've been really fascinated just digging into it all and finding out how long of a history artificial intelligence actually has in tech. It's not really a new thing at all. It's just getting a little bit more consumer oriented as of recent. So we brought Andrew on to talk about it because he's the one who's really been doing this in his product. Not the only one, but one of the big ones. With Bertha AI in particular. And I'm excited to jump in and see how things are going. If you're watching right now, thanks for being here. And you can reach out to us and ask your questions as well, and we'd like to answer them on screen. So feel free to add them into whatever chat box you might happen to have in front of you, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter maybe. Or on Twitter, we're also watching the hashtag WP Product Talk. So any and all ways to reach out is fair game. So topic first is, why is this an important subject for WordPress product owners? Artificial intelligence in the product. Who wants to jump in first? Let's let Andrew be last on this one, because I can tell you that so far my experiences are very small, but I just see tons and tons of potential. I've been hearing lots of people talk about ways that they might want to implement it. Andrew was just telling me about some conversations he had about LearnDash on my side of things. I can tell you that I'm not going to go into detail, but Cadence is working on some really interesting things with artificial intelligence right now. I personally have just been using it mostly for content generation type ideas for marketing purposes. I've tried to imagine ways that it might be helpful to nonprofits and donations, but I haven't been able to figure out the best way to leverage it there. But I just see it as a huge potential, lots of opportunity for products in general. If the shoe fits, of course, it really depends on the product. So I can keep it short. Katie, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's basically the trending topic of the last few months, isn't it? You really couldn't put anything in tech that was trending more than AI right now, triggered, of course, by ChatGPT, but in no ways limited to that. And I think for WordPress product businesses, it brings two different areas of opportunity. One applies to all of us, which is the internal workings of our business. And there's lots of different opportunities that we need to think about of how it changes our working processes, whether that's marketing, coding, design, or anything else, really. It has so many different strands to it that we all need to think about. And in addition to that, there's the opportunity for AI related products, which is what Andrew, of course, is at the front line of at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. If you didn't see, Andrew and I had a fun tweet thread comment last week of how I generated the description of this podcast with, I think, 5 different AI platforms. And I will say, I think it was one of the best podcast descriptions I've ever written, for sure. And I think it just was like, it felt like I had like 4 different editors standing over my shoulder. I was like, man, I better get this right. So, Andrew, what's your take? Why is this so valid, relevant, important for WordPress product owners right now?
Well, for WordPress product owners particularly, so let's just analyze who a WordPress product owner is. They're generally a freelancer that wants to scratch their own itch, so they build a plugin. They know pretty much nothing about marketing. They don't know how to do a strategy. They don't know how to write a blog post, or they don't know what to write about. They don't know how to do some research, maybe. So with AI, you can basically write a blog post about how do I solve this particular issue with this particular plugin, and the AI will give you some marketing ideas. How do I build a strategy around a plugin, or how do I build a marketing strategy around it? You can literally ask. In my case, Bertha.ai has got chat as well, so you can ask in the chat, how do I build a strategy for this particular plugin which solves this particular problem, right? And she'll come up with the answers for you. And there's many other AIs out there. Most of them actually are application layers on top of open AI. So we're all using GPT-3, including Bertha, and we're using a couple of other engines because OpenAI has had its own problems over the last few weeks. I mean, ironically, Microsoft put $10 billion into them. And they did a similar thing with Skype, and about 3 weeks later, Skype just crashed. So it's just ironic, and I'm sure it's a total coincidence, but OpenAI has been crashing pretty much every day for the last week and a half. So we've mitigated that by using a different system. So when OpenAI crashes, we automatically swap across to another application, which is it's not perfect, but it's it's getting there and it's working for us. But for product vendors like Katie, when Katie first started, suddenly had the spring of this fresh idea about what she wanted to do. Katie, what was your biggest problem? It was looking at a blank piece of paper saying, how do I describe this as a solution? How do I get it across that it's a cost-effective solution? Why would somebody want to install something that they don't know is going to work for them on their own WordPress install? And I think that's the benefit to vendors. Let's not forget that Pippin himself, when Pippin's plugins were sorted, when he built Easy Digital Downloads, I don't think he ever imagined that he'd have 100,000 users or 50,000 users or whatever, and the support that goes along with that. So what's happening now, particularly with Aaron Edwards, who you had on last week, at Ugly Robot on Twitter, he's now developing a system where people can easily upload their data for their help files or their FAQs or their knowledge base. And then that will build a chatbot that's specifically within their help desk. And that will be first line of defense, if you like. So, the power of AI to help product vendors be bigger than they actually are, even when they're first starting, is quite amazing. So we've always said as plugin developers, and in fact, I remember having a conversation with Katie months ago when I bought one of her plugins, a year ago even, where I couldn't do something, and it's because I didn't read the manual. And really, what I should have done is just looked, as you said in the nicest possible way, read the manual, so it was, and but if you have any problems, you can't read the manual, come back to me. And that's the issue, is now we don't have to read the manual, because we can ask a chatbot, how do I get over this issue?
We can ask a chatbot how to read the manual for us.
Yeah, we're building stuff for.
They lie though, don't they? They make stuff up.
Yes.
I think every plugin's on WordPress.org, for example.
If you train them properly, Katie, if you trained
that's true.
your bot on all your documentation, then it will produce an answer for the user to say, how do I do this? Or I've got a problem with this. And it will analyze, and it will generate some text and say, well, this could be the problem, go here, and actually produce a link to the part of the knowledge base that people need. So anybody that's got a highly developed knowledge base, they'll take advantage of us and of what Aaron's doing, and building them a chatbot that will be their first line support, which would be great. That's one of them.
Didn't he show that to us, Katie, afterwards, right? He didn't bring it up. Did he bring it up during the show?
No, he actually asked me to talk about it. And we're technically competitors, but I love what Aaron's doing. He's doing similar to stuff to us, because it's all in open AI, so we can train on models and stuff like that. But effectively, if I'm a sole plugin developer or plugin vendor, my life has now changed, because I now know how I can now got somebody to help me do the marketing, which is AI driven. And I've got somebody to be my first line of defense, which is AI driven. And I've also got product development if I decide to use Codex to help me write my code. So there's lots of things going on with AI that will help all software product developers, actually. But in the WordPress community, I'm seeing lots of people write lots of little plugins to just help themselves, actually, rather than just sell them on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he actually showed it to us after we had turned off the recording, and I was like, this is something that I want, especially for any of the Stellar products, for our documentation section. Or one thing we do on the Give side, on the support form, is we before you can even see the form, it says, hey, here's just a quick search of our docs. Is your question answered here? I could totally imagine having the chatbot there first, and then it's like, have I answered your question? And you're like, no. Okay, then you can fill out a support ticket.
Well, can you imagine in the future that you'll actually be talking to an AI generated avatar? So I would like to just imagine me as the avatar, and you can verbally ask me a question via whatever medium you're doing. And I will then reply.
And created bot right there. That one is the chat bot.
Yeah. A live chat bot.
Yeah. Where's your Bertha bot? Where'd it go? That's the one. We should imagine we're all talking to the Bertha bot. Yes. I don't know.
She says no. She says nonce.
Katie, what do you think?
I'll make one for your daughter, Katie. I know that you're eyeing it up.
I'm worried that you're the only one in the world. You have 2 business partners. They at least need one.
I have 1 business partner, and he's not getting it, and he's got 2 kids. So that's it. Not having it.
Katie, what do you think if all of our customers were interacting with Bertha bots instead of technical support technicians? What do you think of that?
In theory, yes. I have personally not seen it yet. All I have had is trying to talk to my bank or something and being frustrated. And because I think there's a lot of people outside of WordPress have integrated this years before it was ready. And you would both have had that experience of these bots. And it's like, for God's sake, you can't do anything. Just tell me. Let me speak to a real person. So yes, if the bots genuinely had that level of knowledge so that they could be first line of support, just like a tier 1 support engineer would be, then I'm all for that. And I'd like to spend some time testing the latest tools to see if they're at that stage yet. I just haven't personally seen it yet because I haven't done that testing.
Yeah, the term I keep hearing bantered around a lot is generative AI. And that to me is kind of why I can't imagine it actually answering super technical support questions quite yet. Because I think it's really challenging to generate actual actionable responses to technical problems based on the documentation as is. Now, of course, like what you were saying, you have to train them to be smart enough to do those things. We could literally inform the bot by the actual tickets and not just the online docs. Like throw Help Scout at the whole bot and see what happens. That would be interesting
Well,
because there's
the
That's
definitely
a lot
like
of
many
data.
times
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
ton of data, and there's plenty of times where we are training our technicians to use canned responses, but to customize them to the situation. I imagine that's not that different from training an AI bot, right, Andrew?
absolutely not. So if somebody asks a question, it's a detailed question, because in support, I do support as well, and I'm sure Katie's done her fair share of support. It's like getting blood out of a stone from some people when they say it's not working. Well, not what's not working, right? So you then have to get an explanation from them. So one of the things that we're training the bots to do is to read the intent of the email, understand the frustration, because exclamation marks, capital letters, all this kind of stuff, come back empathically and say, I understand the situation is not making you particularly happy. However, if you would like to go to this part of our documentation, this will probably help you. If it doesn't help you, then please come back to me and I'll get a live support agent to deal with you. But also part of the training is the live support agents have got masses of notes, solutions, whatever. Those can all go into the knowledge base as well. Those can all go into the training model. And eventually that first line. So, and lots of people will say, well, you know, what's going to happen to your first line support guys and girls? And you say, well, actually, they'll become second tier and third tier. Their job gets better because they are then dealing with real issues rather than I installed the plugin as a theme or I installed the theme as a plugin, you know, and we've all come across
Rather
this
than just
where
read the
people
doc, Andrew,
installed
rather
a
than just
theme and
that.
it's been, you know, there's no CSS file there. Well, that's because you installed it as a plugin. But you know, all those kind of things, and you've got to be sympathetic with them, with people, because what we don't realize, or what we don't really understand as technical people, you know, even the technical Twitter, and we're all in support, and we're all doing, you know, developing these plugins, we don't actually understand what a non-technical person goes through day in, day out. You know, I had somebody install Bertha today on Chrome who's definitely not a technical person. And I saw some issues around the installation, which I thought was very, very simple. It's like 2-click installation, where if there was an issue, that happily this person looked around and made sure that they got it right. But I've now seen a way to improve that for a totally non-technical user. We assume too much sometimes as plugin developers and theme developers. So we make sure that we make it as simple as possible for people to install our stuff and use it.
So I've gotten a little bit off script here just because it's interesting. And I think we want to flesh out the whole scope of what this is. But like, if we have like one sentence, why is this an important topic for WP product owners? Let's go around the horn and then we'll jump into story time. Katie, why is this important for WP product owners?
Because it's an opportunity for us all.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew?
Growth. That's it.
Give me 2 sentences.
Short sentence.
Well, it will help you grow as a developer, a product owner, and a marketer. So it will help you grow, basically. So and it will help your product grow. And if you integrate AI into your product, that will also keep it sticky as well.
Nice.
Because people will want to use it every day.
Yep. Yeah, I think generally because keeping fresh, because I do see this as becoming a tool that is in everybody's tool chest going forward. in one form or another. So making sure you're on top of things going forward. We have one question here, and I do want to make sure we highlight questions whenever they come up. I'm not sure what this means exactly. Maybe Andrew, you have any insight on this? Is there a plugin for that?
Not Microsoft. Well, I mean, Bertha Chrome extension works with all Microsoft online products. So PowerPoint, Word, Excel. Bertha just works because she's in a web browser. She'll work with all the Microsoft Live products and Google Docs and things like that. So anything that's web browsers, our extension, Bertha's extension, I know because obviously I'm the owner of it, and I know that it works in any web browser with anything like Notion, Monday, WordPress, Shopify, every web browser based thing where you need to generate text or images. So it works in everything. That's why we did it as a Chrome extension as well as a WordPress plugin.
Nice. Cool. Keep the questions coming, folks. I want to jump into story time. And I think it's important when we are talking about our experiences to really say, like, openly, like, I haven't built anything with AI to date, but it doesn't mean I don't have insights into what products can do with them. So let's talk a little bit about our personal experiences of using AI in different ways and what that might mean for other folks. Katie, you want to go first?
Yep, sure. So I don't think it matters if you haven't built anything with it because of the two strands that we've got. So it's about how you've used it to build your business and the businesses that you work with. So in my case, I personally use it partly for marketing and partly for just my own tasks. With marketing, I use it all the time. I mostly use it to write outlines for articles. I will always flesh them out myself using my product knowledge. I would never assign an article to a writer that came straight from ChatGPT, but it really does save time and also add ideas that I probably didn't come up with on my own. I use it to rewrite things. I'm actually quite a good writer, but it still adds something that I've missed and can improve on the wording. That might be writing a sensitive email to a team member or something like that. It actually often, this makes me sound terrible, but it adds a human angle, which my own writing doesn't have. So the robot is clearly more human than me by adding humanity to the words.
Wow, I didn't know this was going to be like confessional time. This is amazing.
Yeah, I won't be more specific than about ways I've used it in case
Katie
the relevant
from the
people
hip.
are.
Basically, that's what she's saying.
Yeah. I use it for things like rewriting tweets. Often I don't use what it comes up with because it's just way too boastful or something, but it's interesting to have another perspective. It's good for coming up with alternate headline ideas. And in fact, many of the headlines for the shows of this podcast, I used ChatGPT to draft and chose the best option. So those are ways I use it. But as the business owner, I'm also thinking about how my team can incorporate it. So, for example, at the moment, one of my developers is building some custom reports for our EDD sites and because we don't have the business information we need. So I've asked him to look at different AI tools in terms of speeding up that process and automating it and so on. I've talked to my marketing team about how they can be using it. And it's interesting because some people seem to be a bit threatened, whereas others are willing to embrace it. So I need to word it in a sensitive way. I'm not trying to do them out of their jobs. I'm trying to see how they can achieve even more without, having fewer people. Yeah. And we've had a new in-house designer start today, and I've also created a task for him to look at how maybe AI might help with image generation, particularly on like blog posts, social media posts, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking more widely about how it could be used within the business. And of course, there's something that's not my area, which is the whole development side of things. And I haven't spoken yet with our plugin developers about whether they're using that and how they could use that in a positive way for their work.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, my experiences are very similar in the sense I'm a consumer. I just recently paid for ChatGPT just because I'm impatient and I don't want to refresh the screen 25 times and exacerbate their problems with server load. But I think one of the things I use it for, like many ways, I would just call it like an enhanced search engine because for like a research purposes, recently I'm looking a lot into net promoter score type stuff for customer experience and support. And I just have been asking different chatbots like what's the best way to implement net promoter score on an existing customer base. I like asking like human questions to the chatbot for them to give full responses. And sometimes I say, write 3 sentences on this, or I say, write 3 paragraphs on this. One thing I like on the way Microsoft Bing has implemented it is it always cites its sources. I really like that a lot. But I have found that their sources are usually 3 to 4 years old. Usually, I haven't found them like citing new sources hardly ever, which is interesting. And then even when I was putting together this description of this podcast, what I really liked when I was using Notion, which I know that all these are all ChatGPT, but their implementation makes it have a different experience, which is interesting. But when I did Notion, I said, write a paragraph on podcast introducing Andrew Palmer talking about WordPress products. And it gave me a paragraph. And then I said, now rewrite that. I just told it, rewrite the paragraph above with a Fleisch-Kincaid score of 6th grade. And it did it. And it was really good. I was really impressed. So like iterating on the responses as you go, I think is really interesting. So those have been my experiences too. I did try one of them was write a plugin on how I could implement SEO meta tags on my WordPress site, just to see if it would like, make me compete against Yoast tomorrow. Like let's do that. And it was like, I can't write a plugin for you, but here's how you would do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wanted to
clever. Well, there's Codex. You got Codex. So how I use AI every day. Obviously, I'm testing the plugins. I'm testing implementations as well. As you say, I'm talking to learning management people all the time about it. Write me a course description. Write me a lesson on a particular. So, I did the example I did for the meeting that I had with your guys was, do me a course description on rock climbing, and now give me 10 lesson titles for rock climbing. From the lesson titles, write the lesson on that. That wrote the lesson. And so, and every time I show the power of AI to people, their heads literally, they go, oh my goodness, I've got to be able to use this. So ChatGPT is great, don't get me wrong, but it's not the whole story. There are many AIs out there. The ones that I don't like are the ones that will write you a 2,500 word blog post instantaneously from a thing. I think that's the wrong way to go around it. I think we've got to use them as writing assistants. So for today, for instance, I was in a coaching day with a client who's a marketing manager of a law firm that have 7 separate offices. So we used Rephraser a lot because we wanted to tell a similar story but not the same on each website, and we also didn't want to get penalized for duplicate content. So we basically took some copy, rephrased it, put some localization in it with SEO, wrote some SEO meta tags and titles and meta descriptions, and boom, we've got the 7 websites, all different but similar because they're a similar brand. So that's the power of AI, is that you can use the generative, and why it's called generative is to separate it from the AI of, say, Tesla, that you drive a car, that will drive a car, or the AI that will help a surgeon do a heart operation from miles away. So that's why it's pretty much called generative AI, because it is very specifically generating text and or images, which Bertha does both of in its own plugin and in the Chrome extension as well. And improving all the time on what we can get out of generative AI with prompts. So, a new skill is prompt writing.
Yeah.
Part of what makes our plugin better than anybody else, in my view, is that our prompts are excellent. You know, we spent 4 months writing prompts from a website owner's perspective, because we've built 4,000 websites between us, Vito and I. So we know what website owners want, or we felt we knew, and then we built the prompts, and then we're building more prompts and educating Bertha more and more, helping her learn the user as well. So that's the benefit that I've got from it. But you know, for instance, I've got a web agency as well. I'm now offering very quick website builds with copy, because I can. And that's the benefit for a small web design agency or a web build agency. Go into your templating stuff, do renter websites if you like, or lease websites, and say, okay, you can pay for this over 18 months. Here's your solution, Mrs. Florist, because you haven't got a lot of money. You know, you've literally got to sell a bouquet of flowers a month just to pay for this website. That's what it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you 85 quid a month or 150 quid a month to run this website, but you don't have to worry about writing copy. You don't have to worry about local SEO. You don't have to worry about anything. And also with today, you know, with 7 Google business pages, we had to make them all different. So we used AI to make them all different. Again, similar, but different. So that's where I'm using AI. I'm making sure that people can build their businesses locally, make sure that the content is not duplicated, but it says a similar message, and also, you know, building images around. Imagine building a blog post out and being able to generate images whilst you're building that blog post out, as an example. You know, it's crazy. This is why it's so exciting. Just the product.
Absolutely.
It's a productivity tool, and that's what you've got to think of it as.
Yep. Good question here from Jim Ross. Do you think there are any ethical concerns with using AI in WordPress product businesses, and how can they be addressed? I'll just say there's always ethical concerns about everything related to business, but anybody got a take on this? Katie in particular, like copyright concerns maybe, or...
I have tried to check ChatGPT before, and I don't think it does plagiarize. It does what real writers do, which is combine things to create something new. That's actually how a lot of humans write, unless it's true creative writing. So I haven't found that sort of issue. I did read about a story. I think there was like a shooting or something, and somebody got found out. Have you heard about this? That it said there was an email that somebody wrote, and it said written by ChatGPT at the bottom, and everybody was up in arm. Sorry, that's a really bad phrase. Was really annoyed about that. And but then when I read it, it wasn't that the email content was wrong. It was that it was the principle of but I think the writing was appropriate from what I could gather. So it's more about people's prejudices, opinions, emotions. If they think that a robot has written them a sensitive email, they may not think it was genuine, even though actually it was. Because people think, oh, if it was written by AI, then the person had no true input into it, which is not the correct way to use it, of course, as we've touched on.
Yeah, no, I mean, that email, it's like a special letter from our CEO and founder, and then at the bottom, generated by ChatGPT. Like, it just wouldn't go over very well.
Or generated with the help of that. You know, it depends whether or not the person is, you know, like Katie was saying, that she shoots from the hip. And so sometimes she might use ChatGPT or some other AI to gentrify it, really, or, you know, make it a little bit more gentle or more sensitive or empathic. I don't know where's the ethical. I need to know what the ethical concerns are before I answer that, really. I don't know what ethical concerns are around AI. There's been a lot of talk about that it's got bias and it's inbuilt bias because it's built by a certain demographic, but it's also only scanned 10% or 15% of the web anyway. But I think where Jim's aiming at is is it copying stuff? So more of the ethical stuff is coming from the art generation,
Copyright
right?
stuff,
So from
yeah.
the image generation. But when I go to college and I learn about the Renaissance, and I learn about Greek mythology or Greek, the Greek statues and sculpture and all that kind of stuff, I'm learning a style of production for a painting, for a sculpture, for a design. Product designers, Steve Ives or whatever, the guy that designed the iPhone, had ideas for years about how he would put things together. He was inspired by other artists or other creatives or other product designers. So with AI, all AI is doing is being inspired by everything that it's scanned, everything that's in its database. But because it's not human, or it doesn't bleed when you cut it, it's copying. It's not inspiration. Yeah. And I think that's the key. But in the end, at the end of the day, generative AI can only produce what it's learnt, just like a human being. We can only be as creative as we can be from learning how to be creative. There's no spontaneity. I'm not born and then held in a box for 20 years and then I suddenly come out as Van Gogh. Am I?
Yeah.
I can't. It's impossible. I've got to learn that process through education and inspiration from other things. So that's all generative AI.
I think for me, there's two things that stand out as a little slippery slope-ish. The first one is really on the generative image side, not so much content, but like the way that AI generates images, specifically around concerns that all of our images are out on the web and all of our images might be used in ways that generate something that we might not like particularly well. If something too closely resembles me, putting me in a position on an image that I don't want, I don't love that idea. But I know that a lot of folks are already digging into some of those implications and what that might look like and how we might somehow put tags into the meta of images to prevent that type of thing when it's your likeness and things like that. So I think that is something to keep in mind. I have the other one is on the content side, specifically in education, in the education realm. I have a funny story where my 16-year-old was asked to write an essay comparing Jesus of Nazareth with Spider-Man. I just thought it was a ridiculous prompt. I was like, I cannot believe this is like a 10th grade prompt, but all right. I said, it's so ridiculous. I decided I'm going to show her ChatGPT. I said, you should just generate it from this. Then you should change it. It needs to be your own. But that is exactly where the ethical side of things comes into play. Is if you do try to just pass off content that you're either paid for or it's supposed to be a reflection of your effort in a educational environment, you're trying to pass that off as your own when it's not. I think those are ethical concerns that are really important, especially even when it comes to like LearnDash. Like, all right, let's generate a whole course on how to write WordPress plugins with ChatGPT and then sell it for $25 a pop. You could do that for sure, and you don't even have to edit it. I don't think that would be ethically sound to do it that way. You could, but I do think that there is also just the raw marketplace that will put you in check. Like, I don't think that people will enjoy that course particularly well, and you might get a lot of refunds for it. But using it as a launching pad into thinking of ideas and putting together your own thoughts and actually crafting something based on that is a different story. So those are my two ethical ones.
Was that the example you used from a school? Did they ask to compare Jesus to Spider-Man? Did they really? How very odd.
It was a religion course. So
pardon me?
It was a religion course. So
okay. Still an odd thing.
The thing is, none of these are and specific to AI, the ethical concerns, plagiarism, image doctoring, those sorts of things, all of that, it applies to life in general. So AI might have exacerbated that, but we haven't really, I think, between us come up with any issues that are specific to AI that are bringing new into the world that we haven't already had to tackle in some other way.
I
That's
agree.
really,
Because
really poignant.
I agree with you, Katie. There's nothing that hasn't been done by humanity, good or bad, that AI has yet to recreate.
Yeah.
Or yet to create something new that would cause somebody to say there's an ethical concern here.
Yeah.
Because
But we do
human beings naturally are biased. They have bias. And because of we've got bias, AI has bias because it learns from humans, right? Eventually, there will be, there's the court that says there will be so much AI generated content that when AI rescrapes whatever it rescrapes, it will actually be AI writing, AI writing,
AI learning from AI.
writing. So there will be no originality left in the world. But
AI inception. Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm going to be alive when that happens.
I think we do have to acknowledge, though, that like while those problems have existed, this does proliferate them in a way that wasn't available. Like people can forge images, but I know that I couldn't reliably forge an image before. Like I couldn't do something passable as an actual image forgery. But now suddenly tools like that are a lot more accessible, a lot more available to the common user. I mean, it's the same thing with weapons. Like when weapons are only held by a few folks, they're only limitedly bad. But when you proliferate them across a whole population,
It's crazy.
it
So
gets a little bit
one of the things that
problematic.
will happen is that AI will generate a screenplay, and then AI will make that movie.
Yeah,
That'll happen. So
yeah, for sure.
we'll be inundated with AI. It's just so we have to find some way to almost control it. Will we be punished by Google and others for using AI-based content? No. They've said that as long as it's interesting, useful, and I've always felt about SEO stuff, if it's entertaining, educational, and useful, then it doesn't matter whether it's AI generated or not, it will be indexed by Google. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, Google has its own AI that it's had for a long time, but they're trying to commercialize it and or consumerize it. I think it would go against who they are as a product to start penalizing the thing that they're really good at. But yeah, they have said that like if they detect a lot of AI content in a piece, but it actually is really good content still, then it's going to be elevated just like any other content.
Sure.
Which I think is the right answer.
There's a lot of paranoia about that. There's no evidence that it would penalize you if you're producing genuinely useful content, which is relevant and everything. But I have that paranoia as well that I think, for example, ChatGPT always concludes with the word overall or something. It always says the same word. And I always remove that in case Google uses that as a clue. But there is no real evidence. It just feels like you might get penalized. It feels like cheating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it does, but you can also ask ChatGPT to write in the tone of voice of a human. So if you that's why we have tone of voices, and one of the things that I use it for as well, particularly my own plugin, because obviously I've got instant access to it and millions of words, is translation. I can say, here's this paragraph, write this in French, or write it in German, or write it in Hungarian.
That's nice.
And it does it. So it's pretty useful for that kind of stuff. So it's multi-language, universal, and is a global solution basically. And even Japanese, it will. OpenAI is great for languages as well. So it helps translation people, helps understanding, cultural understanding as well. You know, say I want to write a letter to my girlfriend who's Polish, but I want to write it in Polish. I chuck it into a rephrase and say, write this in Polish, please. You know.
Yeah.
And then get myself in Polish as well.
Yeah. Regarding universities, I mean, that's a little bit of my example. It's my daughter's high school essentially, but not universities. But like they have had plagiarism detectors for a really long time at university. I used to teach, and plagiarism detectors have been around for forever, and they're going to continue to be that way. But one thing I've heard more and more common from teachers is that they won't be assigning essays to write outside of the classroom much anymore.
Great idea.
If you want to do an essay, it's going to be 30 minutes at your desk in the classroom, and that's it. You know, no screens, no mobile phones. I did install Microsoft Bing on my phone because I got access to the Bing AI bot, and I tried it out just this morning. And it's really cool just having a little AI bot on my phone. But if I'm taking a test, not so much. So,
but when I was at school, we didn't. I mean, we didn't do this kind of. You know, you get assessed now. There's part that's like 60% or 70% of your SATs or whatever it may be, or your exams. We didn't do that. We sat down. You know, I'm old, so when I was at school, we did sit down for an hour and write an essay on such and such. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that's what you got marked on. So maybe we're going back to the old school way of doing stuff because of AI.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. So next and last segment is what is your best advice for new plugin shop owners who are considering AI in one form or another? Andrew.
Train it on your documentation for a start. Write good docs and then train it on documentation. That will save you a lot of time in support. To get rid of the what some people regard as stupid questions. I don't think there's ever a stupid question in WordPress, but you know, so to get rid of the low level questions, low hanging fruit, get rid of it for that. Use it for writing better content to better describe your plugin solution. And also use it for maybe evaluating your plugin code as well. You know, certainly with OpenAI Codex, you can throw it into there and say, you know, what mistakes have I made, or can you re-examine this code? And it'll tell you where maybe you've left an open bracket or closed bracket or whatever. You know, it'll just or your syntax isn't quite correct, or you've got a loop wrong. You know, specifically in WooCommerce, you know, Katie knows if you get a WooCommerce loop wrong, it's like a nightmare to fix it and find it, you know. So you use it to your best advantage and have no guilt about using it. You know, just use it as another tool. Use it as we all use tools, and AI is a great tool to help you improve your business and your productivity.
Excellent. Katie.
My advice is to be positive and embrace it as a genuine opportunity to make your business more successful. Think creatively about the different ways, because there are really a wealth of different opportunities that you probably haven't thought of that you can incorporate into your processes and possibly even your future products as well. But don't use it as a sticking plaster for bad work. Don't use it to be lazy. It's only a tool. It's only a starting point. You still need to finish it off, put your own unique knowledge about your product into it, and don't rely on it too much. It's all about getting the right balance.
Excellent. Really good advice. I think my best advice is to dig into the APIs, because there's a lot of power in there from what I can see. And I do think a lot of the opportunity is being able to leverage them, if at all possible, in your products. I don't want to call it a gold rush, but like essentially if your product it has a good, solid use case, not like a tertiary, like this is just a marketing ploy kind of use case. If your product has a good use case for AI to be leveraged in the product itself, jump into the APIs, get familiar with it, see what you can do immediately, because there is a lot of opportunity at the moment. And if you get ahead of the game right now, then you might be beating out some bigger players, honestly, because it's harder to implement features like this in the bigger products. You can be scrappy right now and get ahead of the game. So cool. Well, that wraps us up for today. This was a great conversation. Went in lots of really interesting directions. Katie, do we have things lined up? We're actually a little bit behind still. Do we have somebody for next week? We do, don't we?
We do. We have, and this is one of my favorite topics, marketing. And we have Alex Denning from Ellipsis, who's one of the top people in marketing. And also because he works with so many product businesses to do their marketing, he has some really great insights, as well as being a very thoughtful, strategic person. So he's very definitely someone to listen to next week.
Absolutely. I love Alex. He's a great guy. I'm looking forward to that for sure. So, Andrew, thanks so much for being here. Everybody, do that fun YouTube stuff where you like hit the like button and the subscribe button and all that stuff. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Take care.